Another lawsuit has been filed on behalf of a teen victim against both teens, young adults, and the parents of young adults. Here's what happened. The victim in this case is currently 17 years old, and the first attack happened on him when he was 16. So what happened was on May 19th, 2023, the victim and a friend saw an invitation to a party at a park in Mesa on Snapchat. Almost immediately upon arriving at that park, someone came up to the victim, a teenager he didn't know, and said to him, "Whatever goes down, I'm on your side." Within seconds, the victim was surrounded. Someone began pushing him from the front. Another person came up behind him and slammed him to the ground. After he was slammed to the ground, the victim was punched and kicked by multiple assailants. The victim curled into a ball and covered his head. The teenagers who attacked Caleb are all known Gilbert Goons who are named in other lawsuits, and many of whom have already been arrested. As was their custom and purpose, the Goons recorded the beating and circulated it on social media. There's a video of the attack linked in the complaint. Eventually, the victim was able to get away. Several days later, there is a text from the stepson of the school principal where he takes responsibility for orchestrating this attack. "Keep trying to hit up my girl and watch your ass get stomped again." The victim continued to receive dozens of threatening texts from 2 burner phones. The messages referenced the attack in the park and threatened further violence. Almost 2 months later, on July 28th, 2023, the victim and a friend were out driving and they had 2 additional girls in their vehicle. They stopped at a convenience store. They encountered members of the Gilbert Goons, at least one of whom had been involved in the previous attack against the victim. And the victim and his friend got in the car and drove away. Then they were chased in vehicles by 2 different Gilbert Goons in 2 different vehicles. The vehicles sped towards them, throwing twisted tees at them, and chased them for nearly 30 minutes. The kids were crying. The victim was trying to get a hold of his dad, finally got a hold of his dad. His dad told him to drive to a park where he would be waiting. He was waiting, and then when he got there, the defendants left. The threatening texts continued, including a text referencing the murder of Preston Lord. These Gilbert Goons were texting the father and the son. And while the words are not referenced here in the complaint, the words that I keep hearing are, "We're going to do you like we did Preston." Some of these goons have been arrested for this incident. So this incident was the one that I believe was reported to police in January, in Mesa, and Mesa PD arrested these kids. One of the kids was a juvenile that was not named. He is named in this complaint, but he was not named publicly because the juvenile court system is private. The civil system is not private. The defendant that was arrested for this attack and held in juvie and not let out was referenced in that juvenile court to have possibly been involved in the Preston Lord murder. It wasn't specific, but what they said, if you recall, was that this child needed to be held without bond because there were charges that had been submitted to Maricopa County Attorney's Office that were very serious. Now, we all know that charges have been submitted to Maricopa County Attorney's Office for Preston Lord's murder. So we've got this child threatening to do this other victim like he did Preston, and him being locked up for this attack. The complaint also says that the threatening text stopped when he became incarcerated. The first civil tort is civil conspiracy. So the allegation is that the named defendants had an agreement to attack, harass, and intimidate this victim, that they made acts in furtherance of that plan, Remember, what happens in a conspiracy is if a conspiracy exists and one person takes any action on behalf of the conspiracy, every single person involved in the conspiracy is then responsible. The acts in furtherance of the conspiracy include the attack at the park, the threats, the high-speed chase, and the continuing threats, including death threats from unknown numbers and named people. The second count is assault. The third count is assault and battery. The fourth count is intentional infliction of emotional distress. Can you imagine living for 7 months with ongoing threats, never knowing when you show up at a place if you're going to be beaten? Statutory liability for the parents. If you recall, and just to remind you, we have a statute that says parents and guardians are liable for willful and malicious conduct of their minor children immediately. And finally, negligent supervision, that these children were among groups engaging in a terror campaign and the parents either knew or should have known if they'd been doing any type of supervision. The complaint requests general damages against each defendant jointly and severally, punitive and exemplary damages to adequately punish them and deter others from engaging in similar misconduct, statutory compensation, prejudgment interest, and any other relief the court may offer. Let's talk for a minute about what it means to be jointly and severably liable for damages. So this is kind of like, I'm a family law attorney, and usually we talk about community property and how the community is responsible. Any act that one person takes on behalf of the husband and wife is responsible then to the husband and wife. When we ask for damages that are joint and several, it means that we'll get a whole amount and any one person can be collected for the whole amount. Or think about when taxes are owed by husband and wife. It's not like the IRS goes after the husband for half and the wife for half. The husband will go, or the IRS will go after whoever will pay. And that's how joint and several damages work. If this victim and his parent get a judgment for money, they can go after any of these children or parents until they get the whole sum.